was intent upon virtue signaling, but I can say that the Supreme Court justices, the Supreme Justices, so to speak, have taken one step forward and two or maybe even three steps back in the process. Here are the bare facts, viewers. In the face of a stiff backlash from a section of the privileged classes, the upper classes, the upper middle classes, the middle classes, and several animal activists that belong to these classes, the Supreme Court modified its earlier order of August 11, which had directed rounding up of all stray dogs in the Delhi National Capital Region and prohibited their release from dog shelter. A three-judge bench of Justice Vikram Nath, Sandeep Mehta and N.V. Anjaria said that the previous order was too harsh, that the dogs now shall be released from dog shelters after being sterilized, dewormed and vaccinated. They all gave their order a wider agency by declaring that it applies now nationally, viewers. The Supreme Court said stray dogs which are picked up must be released back to the same area from where they were picked up after sterilization, deworming and immunization. Dogs which are infected with rabies, suspected to be infected with rabies or are exhibiting aggressive behavior will not be released, however. The public feeding of stray dogs is prohibited. Dogs must only be fed in dedicated feeding spaces that are to be created. And no individual or organization should obstruct the municipal authorities from picking up the dogs in terms of the ABC rules, detaining them for a few days, sterilizing them, deworming them, and then releasing them. The order makes very little sense, viewers, and seems to be weighed against the interests of poorer families and the blue-collar workers whose lives are spent on the streets and not in well-regulated gated colonies or towering apartment blocks with proactive RWAs and a battalion of security guards. Viewers, the poorer people in this country that were at risk because of these menacing stray dogs, and you can see in the middle of your screens, viewers, there is an individual who is going on his scooter and he's set upon by a dog for no fault of his, and he goes and has a crash and he hurts himself grievously. It's this class of people that will once again encounter packs of dogs in the streets, perpetuating the terror they thought the Supreme Court will protect them from. Indeed, the order raises more questions than it answers, viewers. How does sterilization solve the problem of rampant dog bites that can cause rabies and certain death? This is not a lobotomy, viewers. This is merely a tool. Sterilization is merely a tool to control births, viewers. How will the authorities test for rabies before release? Are there enough vets and testing kits? How do you judge which dog is aggressive? And can anyone guarantee that they won't become aggressive on release? How will short-staffed municipal corporations logistically ensure that stray dogs rounded up for sterilization will be re-released in the same locality? Here, viewers, we can't track Rohingyas and we want to track stray dogs. We can't track illegal immigrants and we want to track stray dogs. I'm not trying to draw any odious comparison, viewers. It is the courts that are drawing these odious comparisons by putting dog welfare above human safety. How will cash-slapped municipal corporations master gargantuan logistics, manpower, shelters, pounds, vets, cages and modified vehicles needed to round up and re-release strays? Here the Election Commission can't track, viewers, voters from one constituency to the other, and they want us to be now running around with all sorts of gadgets tracking dogs. What has gone wrong with this country and its sense of priorities, viewers? Is there enough manpower to monitor that the dogs are being fed in designated feeding spaces and ensure punishment? Here, viewers, we can't track criminals who are striking at will. And now we want to run around with some sort of a device to find out, are the dogs being fed in the right places? They can't track garbage in this country, viewers. Will animal lovers, NGOs, Supreme Court justices take responsibility for future stray dog attacks on humans who are out there living a life, trying to earn a basic living, or young kids on a construction site when their parents are breaking their backs, making our homes, and their poor kids are being mauled by dogs? Will the Supreme Court come and say, I'm sorry, take my job? No, viewers, they won't. None of these dog lovers will. None of them even, viewers, adopt these dogs. Double roti and pura doodh pila dete, and that's about it. Let's open this up, viewers. Let's have an honest conversation, because I don't see how this is going to solve anything. Dr. Ranganathan, look, I'm a dog lover. I've had dogs. But I've grown up with dogs. I've even been bitten by my own pet dog. Let me tell you. But we knew how to take care of our dogs. We were responsible for them, had them vaccinated. We spent time, energy to ensure they weren't out without a leash, biting people, running around, feeding on streets and garbage cans and this, that, the other. I'm sorry, but this Supreme Court order makes no sense to me. Maybe it does to you. I don't know. But I just think that they're playing to the galleries here, quite frankly. To the Gavandes of the world and this gentleman from PETA who's just woken up and come here and, will now give us a homily on humanity. But please, feel free to disagree.
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Look, it had to happen sooner or later, and I think it will. Both of us should be prepared to be held in contempt of Supreme Court. Enough is enough. Because there is a threshold that has been crossed. You can either go by science or by Scientology, whatever that means. This order defies logic. It is beyond science. Let me give you the particulars. There are 62 million stray dogs in India. 1 in every 15 stray dog commits a bite. 4 million bites that happen. There is no concrete scientific evidence that sterilizing a dog reduces in any way the complete aggressive behavior. It can reduce the aggressive behavior based on hormonal changes, which is totally, first of all, unethical and unacceptable to me and any animal lover. Neutering an animal, its procreative right is being curtailed. But there is no concrete evidence that even after you sterilize, the dog will not bite you.
Exactly.
There are 62 million such dogs. Number 2, it costs around 2,000 rupees to test whether a dog has rabies or not. There's an antibody test. There are 62 million dogs. What does the Supreme Court want? To test tens of thousands of crores to be spent to be tested whether these stray dogs have rabies or not. And then what do you plan to do? To tag the ones which are not rabies, because how else will you differentiate? Number 2, it is a fact that the sterilization itself costs anything between 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. Are you going to sterilize how many millions of dogs? That's what I'm saying. I am actually now prepared to go to jail with you, Rahul, because enough is enough. Supreme Court has decided on virtue signaling or whatever the case may be, but it has decided on this order not on science at all. It is a shame.
It's a shame. I mean, it's a joke. Viewers, the Supreme Court justices, they roam around in great, nice little vehicles with air conditioning. Their kids live and their families live in lovely Lutyens zone buildings, viewers, peppered all across in every city in their most posh areas. Cantonment land almost it is. And this is the reality on the streets. Even today, viewers, we had somebody being set upon in another city of ours. What would Mr. Gawande know about the realities of people on the streets there?
Please ask him to disprove my facts.
Yeah, well, Mr. Gawande, there you go. Give us 5 reasons why these questions are illegitimate and why we are not making sense today and why the Supreme Court has made a dog's breakfast of already a piquant situation and why, sir, will you not? After all, it's just going to take love and fresh air, sir. You see, why don't you, all of you rich people, well-placed petar activists, etc., who run around with cauliflowers the whole day and cover their privates as if it's a big fig leaf. It's a fact, viewers. That's what they want you to wear because they say we shouldn't wear any clothes because, you see, we are polluting the environment. You've seen all of them. Anyhow, viewers, I don't want to make it personal and make it, about any one organization, but why don't they set up some sort of a big trust fund? Give some money. Set it up so that the government can do what they want them to do, which is sterilize dogs and give them rabies shots at 2,000 rupees a dose, this, that, the other. Mr. Gawande, why don't you do something for a change rather than just being an activist, you see?
So firstly, thank you for having me on your show. And to start off with, on Dr. Ranganathan's points, the easy answer to some of these questions is that this is the best solution amongst the terrible solutions that exist, right? Unfortunately, the reality is that the MCD in Delhi had done its job. You would not see the kind of menace that you're seeing on the streets today, right? The last time a count was actually held of dogs, and we haven't had one in a decade, much like we haven't had a count of humans in 15 years, you had Mumbai with 90,000 stray dogs and Delhi with 3 lakh.
Yeah, you've been counting the dogs in Mumbai, right? You go there with your, hang on. You go there with a bean counter saying, oh, I just saw one dog. Now, how do you know? How do you know how many dogs there are in Delhi? How do you know how many dogs there are in Mumbai? How do you know how many dogs there are in Calcutta? How do you know how many dogs there are in Bengaluru and so on and so forth? Give me some scientific number.
There's literally a census of dogs that is conducted to prevent exactly these.
Sir, is there a census that has been conducted of human beings in this country from 2011?
It isn't. That's the challenge we've been fighting
against. I'm asking you, has there been a census of human beings, let alone dogs? I'm asking you a question.
All of these, no. How do you know how many dog bites there are in this country?
Mr. Gawande,
where are the facts
because when you have, I'll tell you, because when you have a dog bite, please, hang on, I'll tell you, please allow me. If you allow me to answer that question, I will. You asked me a question, now wait for the answer, because every time you have a dog bite, viewers, you go to a doctor. You go to a doctor, you get shots, a rabies shot. You go to hospitals, they register. That's how, viewers, we know how many people have got rabies or diabetes or heart attacks in this country and how many people, in fact, got COVID, etc., etc. And some people say even that was untrackable. And they are talking about counting dogs. They can't count humans, and it's been 16 years. What are we talking about, Mr. Gawande? But it's too expensive to hold a census, we are told. COVID happened, we couldn't get out of our homes, so we couldn't hold a census, we are told. And you're telling me that we have the resources, Dr. Ranganathan, to conduct dog surveys and count every wagging dog out there? I mean...
No, it's not. The reason why I say that this is not based on scientific evidence is very simple. Even if you conduct or do not conduct a survey to find out how many dogs there are you seriously telling me that the Supreme Court had said that you must test these dogs, strays, for rabies?
Yes.
Each test is going to cost you 2,000 rupees, Ashish. Who is going to pay for this?
The average lifespan of a dog with rabies is 7 to 10 days. So even if you just bring in a dog who looks like he has rabies symptoms, I don't think the government needs to test them. And this is precisely where, be it the 11th August judgment or this judgment, the government is better placed with experts to understand what the solution is rather than the courts. And on this, I think we can all agree.
Okay, so just one second. I think, again, you're not being scientific, Mr. Gawande. Dogs can be carriers of rabies, just like cats can be, and they don't have to exhibit symptoms, for God's sakes. Please, I mean, what has gone wrong with us suddenly? We've become so enamored by our own puerility that we have forgotten the facts. I mean, what has gone wrong with us as a nation? Anyhow, I don't want to influence the PETA people, so please, Mr. Agarwal, sorry, let's talk. Why don't you tell me, sir, what responsibility will you take if a sterilized dog, and I'm saying sterilized because we don't know if they'll be rounded up and even sterilized. They might just be rounded up for the sake of showing you guys that we're doing something and be put right back on the street. I'm asking you, sir, what responsibility will you take if dog bites continue to happen?
A sterilized dog is very unlikely to bite. They become calmer, they become less, the needs are met. So a sterilized dog would highly unlikely bite. At the same time, it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that sterilized dogs are kept properly.
Sir,
And
are dogs
that,
mammals? Are dogs
I'm
mammals?
sorry?
Are dogs mammals?
Yeah, they are.
They are mammals.
Just like you and I.
So if you sterilize a tiger, for example, he becomes a cat and comes up and licks your face and becomes
It
a
is
little
a
cuddly.
scientifically,
No,
it is a
become a little
scientifically
cuddly.
proven fact.
Where, show me the
that a
science.
sterilized
Show me
dog
the
is
science.
calmer.
Where's the
Proof that you
science?
have.
Where's the science? Do you say, no, hang on, just a minute. Let's take this forward. If they're all mammals, they all exhibit the same.
So you're not a
One
veterinarian,
second,
you're not an
Mr.
expert.
Mr.
You're
Agarwal,
not on the street.
are you a veterinarian?
I
आपने
am
कौन
not,
सा
but I have
veterinarian
worked with
किया है, साहब?
veterinarians. PETA India works with
I mean, let's
veterinarians on a
not talk
daily basis.
nonsense, for God's sakes. Please, at least have an evolved. Come on, you're a PETA activist, for God's sakes. You're supposed to be the domain expert. That's why you're sitting on CNN News 18. You're not sitting on some, chopal. So let's get serious here. Show me the science that says that sterilized dogs become calmer, more docile, and are not prone to aggressive behavior. Show me the data. Because if they are mammals, and I want to bring in Ishkaran Bhandari here. Ishkaran Bhandari, look, you're a mammal. If I sterilized you tomorrow, would you become extremely calm? Would you
What are you
roam
saying?
around
I'd
and
murder
say,
you?
oh, I have become a peace activist now? And if Pakistan attacks,
majority of the
no,
dogs-
let's go and
No,
give
no,
them a
majority
jappi
of
and a
the
puppy
dogs-
and a rose. Would you become that sort of person? I mean, what are we talking about? It's not a laughing matter, actually. It's an exasperating matter.
Exactly. It's not a laughing matter, so stop making jokes about it.
I'm not.
Can I?
I'm
it's a
actually
question to me, Rahul,
exasperated.
can I
I'm
answer?
just
You are-
pointing
you
out
are
by
making
using these
jokes.
analogies how
Rahul,
stupid,
No, you
how
are sitting
stupid
here
and
making
silly
jokes, making
people are
personal
sounding
comments.
tonight.
Ra-
Yes.
It's just
Rahul,
you.
it's a question. Can I come in? You took my name. Yeah, thank you. Rahul, there are four major issues here. One interesting thing, because you were saying how many people are going to put money in a trust. The Supreme Court also recognized it and said every NGO to put in 2 lakh rupees, a person who goes to court could put in 25,000 rupees. That's A part. B part, which is very interesting, is Supreme Court has allowed adoption of dogs. We will soon have a data, because to adopt dogs, you'll have to obviously move some applications, some mechanism would be evolved by the government. We will see how many people are going to adopt dogs. That data would not be very difficult to get. Maybe in 3 months we will come to that also, because let's remember, the first order from the Supreme Court came because all state governments have flopped, bar none. Then what happens is, this 3-judge judgment comes in, and there are certain important points in this. One is, we will have data of how many people are adopting and how many people are contributing money. Once Supreme Court is setting up fund, people not going to court also can obviously donate to it to provide facilities. We will get to know that also. Then the third aspect which is there is, feeding on the streets has been banned, and anybody who does it, they will take legal action. That is one step forward, because you will have designated areas. But earlier, if you were feeding on the street and somebody objected, people were calling police, FIRs were being registered, violence was occurring on society. Now the law is clear. Now let's come to the fourth aspect. If in 6 months this problem is not solved or no solution is reached, I believe it's a balanced order. People need to understand what are interim orders. Interim order means the government, or the court in this case, is examining the issue. There was one interim order, now there is a second interim order. The second interim order also has a very interesting part. It is not only rabies, but if the dog is thought to be aggressive, then also you don't have to release the dog. I presume there will be applications on that also. How would you define what's an aggressive dog?
Exactly.
What if a dog bites once and does not bite next time? Is he aggressive? But we have to understand that finally somebody is trying to find a solution on this. And the last point I would make on this is, which I think something which we need to see when we are going forward. It's not only about the number of dog bites. Like in speech, we have chilling effect that people do not speak if they feel they will be arrested. Also, there's a chilling effect of how many people cannot walk if you have 20 dogs on a street corner. Nobody may be bitten, but is it stopping your walking? Is it stopping your exercise? Is it stopping your normal human activity? All that now will be seen by the court, because there is a chilling effect also, which is not easy to measure, versus how you find a humane solution. That is why I say the first order was there, now the second order is there. Let's wait for the third order, but solution has to be found within 6 months to maximum 1 year.
Yes, Dr. Ranganathan and Mr. Agarwal. Yes.
So very quickly, nobody has still answered my scientific question that I asked to my good friend Anish. that if one sterilization costs around 3,000 rupees, and he agrees that that is the cost, what is the total cost going to come out of sterilizing all these trays? According to my calculations, it is 18,600 crores. Who is going to pay for this, Anish?
No, see, Dr. Ranganathan, now my counter question to you is, the statistics are on your screen right now. It's 1580 to sterilize a dog, according to CNN News 18's own estimates, and 2,500 to keep them in a shelter for a month. Nobody is denying that this solution should have been implemented a long time ago. I simply don't see any alternative, unfortunately, right? The shelter alternative is absurdly expensive. Just for Delhi, it would cost 15,000 crores. So if you have a viable public policy alternative to sterilization that will solve this problem in the medium to long term, I am very down for it. I want fewer stray dogs on the street as much as you do.
Yes, but at the same time, you are cushioning the fact that millions of ordinary residents who, unlike you, do not stay in gated communities, millions of drivers and delivery boys are at the mercy of these aggressive strays. You will not be bitten, they would be.
But again, that is precisely why I'm saying that this is the only solution that is humane.
How can it be a
and
solution,
works in the
sir,
long
if the
term.
danger still persists? You see,
But I
a
would like to
solution
have an
means.
alternative.
No, hang on.
I mean, I'm very
why
happy
was
to hear
this?
an alternative.
Okay, Mr. Gawande, just one second. Why did the Supreme Court get into all of this? Because they read a report in a newspaper that suggested that someone's child had been mauled by a dog. And they said, enough is enough. We've got to remove these dogs from the streets. Then people like Mr. Agarwal said, but there is something called the ABC law. You're violating this law or the rules or whatever it is that they are. And therefore, today, the Supreme Court has had to revisit under this pressure. Now, my point is, what have they revisited? They have said that the dogs, once taken, must be back on the streets. First of all, viewers, will they even be picked up? I mean, you require gargantuan infrastructure just to pick up dogs. So they won't be picked up, let me tell you, they'll be all out there. And to Ishkan Bhandari's point about designated areas and all that, there are designated areas, viewers, to dump garbage in this city. But who dumps garbage in designated areas? There are designated areas to park in this city, viewers. Who parks in the designated areas? There are designated areas where you have to cross the street, like a zebra crossing. Who crosses on those zebra crossings? Viewers, the point is that we have become used to an anarchy. And Mr. Bhandari, you talk about this chilling effect. There are many laws that are nobody. I mean, Indians drive on the wrong side of the road also. They're chilling laws to tell you not to do that, but it's rampant.
Oh, it's crazy.
No, Rahul, I was talking about how big the problem is.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
have 10 dogs sitting on the road, it's a chilling effect on a human walking. It's not only that how much bites are there or how much rabies cases are coming. Is
scary.
an ordinary prudent man going to walk if there are 10 dogs on the street road?
Yes.
Obviously he will not. That's a commonsensical answer. Anybody will give you. Anybody in the society will give you. But the other point is the solution. That is why I said it's an epic failure of all governments. They did not make the law, or the law they made was solving nothing. In fact, the population was going on. You can blame the bureaucracy, the municipalities. Net result is the problem wasn't solved. Now the court has stepped in, and that's why I said it's an interim order. I believe you will do reports on 3-month impact or 6 months impact. If nothing is solved, then probably the court will need to pass stricter orders. And if things are solved, then we have a humane solution. But the point is, at least finally, outside the absurd laws or inaction of government or municipalities, we are trying to solve a human problem.
Okay, so Mr. Agarwal, how does this solve the problem, the original problem of people being bitten by dogs? Can you just explain to our viewers, apart from your sterilization example, is there anything else that strikes you as being scientific?
See, animal birth controls rule work. They have worked in India itself. There are cities across the country that have done really great work in animal birth control. Take Lucknow, for example. They have the biggest ABC center in the country. They have achieved more than 70% sterilization. The dog population has gone down there. The bite cases, rabies cases have gone down there. Dehradun has done similar work. Jaipur has done it. Sikkim has done it. Chennai has done it. It is the inaction, it is the implementation aspect of ABC that is lacking in major portions of the country.
Okay, so here is a question.
Aspect needs to
fine,
be
some
solved. The
people have
Supreme
got their
Court
act
today-
together, you're saying, Mr. Agarwal, and done a fantastic job, though I doubt it very much, but nonetheless, I want to ask you a question, sir. You say that sterilization must happen, ABC must happen, that is animal birth control. Some people, some experts on the subject, some great animal rights activists that belong to a very, very top class family of this country have said that there might be 7 lakh dogs in Delhi. 7 lakhs. Now you do the math. You have to pick up these 7 lakh dogs. You do the math on how many you'll have to pick up in one day. Let's assume that you set a target that over the next 6 months, you want to sterilize each and every dog out there. Now you do the math on it, sir, and you tell me how much it's going to cost. And do you know the budget of the MCD, sir? Can you give me that number? Do you know the number?
It's not about the cost of what it's going to cost.
Oh, really? It's not about the cost?
Because ABC is going to happen.
How is it going to happen? It just doesn't happen, right? I'm asking you. My God, I mean,
putting all the dogs in a shelter, taking
how
care
do you
of them
take
for
those
the
dogs
rest
to a
of their
shelter,
life
sir? You take
is
them in
going
a
to cost
van.
a lot more.
Do we have enough vans? I mean, Mr. Gawande, is this man even making sense? I mean, I'm sure.
No,
Even
but
you
Rahul,
will admit.
I think the question you've asked the panel today is a question that needs to be asked for the other solutions as well, right?
Which
What
other
is the
solution?
cost effectiveness of putting every dog in a shelter?
No, I'm saying,
But I'm saying,
what is
shelter?
I actually believe that to come to a mean, you have to begin culling. Sorry,
Yes.
but that's the only way. Once you bring down the population to a certain number, can you viably, economically, financially viably go ahead and carry out all this sterilization and everything else? The situation, because of, and this is not just true of Delhi, viewers, it is true of every metropolitan, that you have
Now,
a situation where things are completely out of control.
Someone who comes with less emotion to this debate
I'm
than
sorry,
many
Rahul,
others
are you
might.
actually
I wish
putting
that
animal
culling was
cruelty
even a
on your
solution.
show?
No,
Sorry?
but even if I were to take your word at face value, Rahul, one, we don't cull dogs because it's not humane, but two, the bigger problem is it doesn't work.
Fighting is humane.
What happened with Turkey? Stray dogs are replaced by other stray dogs who come from neighboring areas. You cannot carry out culling at the scale that's
The Supreme
needed.
Court order doesn't only apply
Are
to
there any
Delhi.
human rights left in this world or not?
Zero.
No, but I'm saying
Are there any human rights?
So, Dr. Ranganathan,
Are
I
we
wish
going-
any of these solutions worked. The problem is only ABC works. It doesn't work well. It doesn't work quickly. But it's
Where
the
has
only thing
ABC worked effectively? Are you telling me that there are no dog bite cases in Lucknow anymore?
No, you're never going to get to a zero dog bite case. But again, even with culling in Turkey, you did not get to zero dog bite
Sir,
case.
you are talking about
Even with culling
Turkey.
in Romania.
Can I ask you a question? Turkey is the size of a small Indian state. I mean,
And it
don't
didn't
forget
work
this.
there.
You're comparing
It's precisely what I'm
massive.
saying.
Yeah, so even in Turkey, it didn't help.
No,
I mean-
culling didn't help, Rahul. Culling didn't help.
Listen.
It's very simple. Ashish, please don't leave your human rights behind, because I am also an animal rights person like you are. Please explain this very simple question to me. Are you for or against removing all dog bites? Yes or no?
Absolutely. I am in favor of reducing the number of dog bites. Unfortunately, experience and time has taught us time and again that the minute you engage in something like culling or sending dogs to shelters, unvaccinated and unsterilized dogs take the place of the dogs that you moved out.
Iskan Bhandari wants to
They
respond on that point, and we'll wrap it up here. Yes.
Rahul, you have shown on your debates how dog bites have increased, how the problem has increased. So, of course, we need to have solutions. And that's why I said in 3 months, we might be having a very different debate, or in 6 months, we might be having a very different debate if no solution is found. But we have to find solution. This situation cannot continue. That's a given. I think everybody will agree with that.
Well, I don't think so, because the PETA activist says, disagree. Anyhow, we can all
I
agree
don't
to disagree,
disagree,
viewers.
but I don't
Unfortunately,
disagree
let me
with
tell
Mr.
you,
Rahul.
we're
I
all
disagree with
sitting.
you.
Yes.
You're actively promoting animal cruelty on your show.
Okay, I'll just
You're
tell you, viewers, very, very
actively
simply
talking
this. I'll
that
tell
we
you
should
this.
Kill all animals.
Yes, that's okay,
And-
sir. You're letting your emotions once again run riot. You're letting your emotions run riot. That's not the solution. I just want to make one small intervention here. Viewers, think about the human cost that not some rich person has to bear, but a poor person has to bear when their child is dragged through the streets, turned into a rag doll, and killed. Just think about that, and I'll leave it at this, viewers. Viewers, look at another issue now. The Prime Minister and the Home Minister have both asked, would India's public accept a jailed Prime Minister, Chief Minister, or Mantri occupying high office? Would they want a government to be run out of jail? The questions were posed by both Modi and Shah, who have decided to go all out in defense of the three so-called criminal neta bills that were introduced in Parliament on Wednesday. You will remember, viewers, the introduction of those bills. Now, they are, of course, been referred to a joint parliamentary committee that's going to use, presumably, viewers, a high standard to scrutinize them. But again, today, the Union Home Minister went on an absolute inquisitorial and accusation-laced attack on the India bloc. And he said, and I quote, when the constitution was made, such shameless people were not even imagined. They did not resign despite going to jail. Can a government ever be run from jail? Would the Janta ever accept such a thing? Unquote. In line with Prime Minister Modi's na khaunga, na khane dunga promise, viewers, Union Home Minister has tabled three bills: the Constitution Bill, the Government of Union Territories Amendment Bill, and the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill of 2025. Together, viewers, they strike at the criminalization of politics. The principle is crystal clear. If any Prime Minister, Union Minister, Chief Minister, or State Minister is arrested and held for 30 consecutive days for offences carrying a minimum 5-year prison term, then by the 31st day, they must resign or be automatically removed. The bills propose that a sitting minister, chief minister, or then the prime minister lose their position if they are arrested or detained for 30 days straight. And viewers, as I told you, these are only applicable to heinous offences. And the bill suggests that a dismissed minister, chief minister, and prime minister can be appointed again after their release from custody. So this is not, viewers, a disqualification. But the introduction of the bills has raised the hackles of the opposition and some notable legal minds who have called them an assault on the principle of natural justice and democracy itself. And you know, viewers, the arguments, and they are up on the screen there for you. They've said that it also violates the standard practice and principle of innocent until proven guilty. Viewers, they've also said that these bills were introduced without taking the opposition into account, which is less of the issue, viewers, but nonetheless, they've said that the law will be used to weaponize agencies to destabilize opposition in governments. The reality is, of course, different, viewers, because this writ will apply across all states. Netas facing criminal charges, as we all know, hinder good governance. A debate is raging over their legality. And now, viewers, let's get an opinion on the bills from ex-Solicitor General of India and one of the sharpest legal minds in the nation. Harish Salve, Senior Advocate, former Solicitor General of India, thank you for speaking with me. And I'm going to begin by asking you the brass tacks questions tonight, viewers. Mr. Salve, critics argue that the bill overturns the principle of innocent until proven guilty. Now, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I've heard these expressions nowadays. Unfortunately, legal expressions are used in a scattergun form. All sorts of high-sounding expressions are thrown in without any clear definition. So let's be clear. Natural justice has two basic principles. One is that nobody will be condemned in civil or criminal without being heard. The second is against bias, that you cannot be a judge in your own cause. That's what principles of natural justice are. As far as presumption of innocence is concerned, it's a legal precept, which means it is the prosecution which has to prove your guilt. That's what you mean by the presumption of innocence, and nothing of that has been changed. But you are arrested, and one of the possibly the most cherished liberty, freedom, is taken away when you're incarcerated, pre-trial. So the Constitution also recognizes pre-trial arrest. And that is why it has the remedy by way of bail. And today our courts, including the Supreme Court, entertain cases relating to bail. So it is only when prima facie the courts, including at times even the highest court, is convinced that there is a strong enough case to keep you in custody, then and then alone will this law apply. What appalls me is that, in fact, we needed a law like this. If I can take you back to 1991, so I'm not talking of ancient history of 75, of emergency, etc. I'm talking of 1991. In 1991, when the Jain Hawala thing started, everybody who was charged, not even arrested, resigned. I know ministers who resigned on being charged. And I know that I think Mr. Advani was the leader of the opposition who said, I will only come back after I'm exonerated. I will come back to public life after I'm exonerated. Those were the values by which we ran our public life. In 2000, Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav was arrested. He resigned. He brought his wife as the chief minister. And I remember some very unwholesome photographs, seeing of how the cabinet meetings were being conducted, de facto cabinet as they called it, was being run from jail. We then saw the next lower step of a chief minister operating from jail with all sorts of orders saying he will look at this file but not look at this file, and he will do this or he will do that. So this is where we are. And the fact that we need such a bill, I think, underscores a very sad shift, a very unfortunate shift in our understanding of democracy, where public office is now being seen as an entitlement or a property and not a public duty and a sacred trust.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Let's go one by one through the objections that are being raised. Article 21 guarantees the right to liberty. Mr. Salve, this is what is being said. Does this bill create a punitive consequence, which is a removal from office without trial or conviction, sir?
No. In civil service, for example, if you're charged with a criminal offense, you're suspended. Correct? You don't discharge your duties. If you were a chairman of a company and you were in jail, would you continue to function as chairman? If you're a managing director of a company and you were in custody, would you continue as managing director? Unheard of, unthinkable. If one of your colleagues, one of your senior colleagues was arrested for an offense involving more than 5 years and was refused bail by the courts, would you continue him in office? And is a morality which applies down the road too high for the highest offices? Or is it the other way around? Should they be paradigms of morality or should they be exempt from morality?
No, that's a fair point. And I also can't square one aspect of the objection. And there are service rules that lead to the suspension of bureaucrats if they are detained, and you've just talked about that. Are those ultra vires too? And let me just ask you, because this keeps coming up, because they say that when an elected representative is forced to demit office, they suffer greater damage to their reputation. Mr. Salve.
No. Elected representatives' office is not over. I have read the Constitution Amendment. It only applies to ministers and prime ministers.
No,
Where does it say that a member of Legislative Assembly will vacate his office if he is arrested?
No. What I'm trying to say is that if an elected MP, that's what I'm trying to say, is asked to demit office if he were to become chief minister or a minister or a prime minister, it is said that he suffers or she suffers greater reputational damage when he or she is removed. That's what is being said.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know where this impression has gained currency from. That's simply not right. He shall be removed from his office by the president. Correct?
Yes.
Removed from the office by the president unless he resigns. Now, if a minister resigns or is removed from office, he comes right back. He can be sworn in again. Where does it say that a member of the Legislative Assembly, if he is arrested, his seat will be rendered vacant or he will not have the right to attend?
Okay, so is there a precedent in international law for laws such as the ones the Prime Minister is trying to bring in, this government is trying to bring in?
There is no precedent because there is no precedent in law for somebody who has been arrested and denied bail running a government from a jail. I'm sorry that we need such a law. Is there a precedent in India? I repeat, is there a precedent in India of an elected minister being arrested and continuing in office? Other than the solitary one. Have you known of any minister or prime minister in the world, and we are talking of democracies, any prime minister or minister in the world who has been arrested for a serious crime continuing in office?
Well, there's another argument that is being used to criticize this bill. They say this bypasses voters' will and effectively lets police custody decide leadership transitions. How do you respond to this, Mr. Salve?
You are wrong on both counts. If a minister is arrested and convicted, he vacates office. You can then equally logically argue that asking or causing an office to be vacated on conviction wipes out the voters' will. Yes, it does. Certain acts wipe out the voters' will. Point number one. Point number two, the voters don't vote you into chief minister's office. The voters vote for you as a member of the assembly.
That's true.
So let's be very clear about that. Point number three, there is no principle in democracy that if the voters have voted for you, you will continue in office. And if you like, you can look up the judgment in Jayalalitha's case. If you remember, Jayalalitha was sworn in. And the question arose whether she had 6 months' time to get her conviction vacated. And the Supreme Court said no. You cannot be sworn in as a chief minister if there is a disqualification, because the argument in Jayalalitha was the same. There is a disqualification as member of the Legislative Assembly. Where does the law say that you cannot be a chief minister? You can't be a chief minister. And this is the people's will. So she has been voted in and she is the chief minister. And if in 6 months she cannot be a member of the Legislative Assembly, we will see what to do. And then Supreme Court said no, they removed her from office.
No, so let me press on. Could this law be seen as undermining the democratic mandate by allowing unelected agencies like police, investigative bodies to indirectly remove elected representatives without judicial determination, sir? And that is the point. Judicial determination, without judicial determination.
So there is a judicial determination. Do you think the courts, when the court decides on custody, there is a judicial determination? So what is the standard? What standard are you applying? Conviction is beyond reasonable doubt, correct?
Yeah.
Judicial determination at bail is prima facie case warranting your being detained in custody. If a highest court of a country says a person's conduct is such that he has to be detained in custody, the police is out of the picture. It's the highest of any principle of democracy which says despite a person's conduct being such that he has to be retained in custody, it will frustrate democracy if such a person is not allowed to hold office. It is appalling to even suggest this. Appalling. Is our democracy completely now decoupled from all values of morality? The problem is today, Rahul, we think you have earned the chief minister's office. How can you snatch? It's like forfeiting my property without conviction. You're taking away my office without conviction. If you redefine office as a sacred duty, if an office is a sacred duty, then if you are in custody, how are you able to discharge that sacred duty? And are you the kind of person, see, a prime minister or a chief minister or even a minister is a role model for the country. What is a role model who's sitting in jail? And finally, let me get rid of this argument. You know, today, every citizen, and I repeat, every citizen is entitled to liberty. And am I happy the way the courts today decline discretion to grant bail? No, because bail is not a discretion. Bail is a constitutional right. And correspondingly a constitutional duty of the courts. We have drifted a long time away from Justice Krishnaya's wise adage, bail not jail should be the rule. Bail is the exception. That's the principle followed everywhere. But that's a problem not for those two elected office. That's a problem for each one of us who's subject to the Indian criminal jurisprudence. Have a debate on that. I'm all on your side. I'm all on your side on where have our courts gone wrong in becoming so miserly in granting bail. Let's have that debate. And that applies to a journalist arrested, to a businessman arrested, as much as to a man in public office. But suddenly, if a man in public office is arrested, oh my God, heavens have fallen, democracy is collapsed.
No, you have a point there. Definitely, you have a point there. But still, do you see this bill as upsetting the delicate balance between the executive, legislature, and judiciary by vesting, disproportionate power in executive control law enforcement agencies to dislodge constitutional authorities, sir?
No way. How is there a disproportionate power? Executive always had the same power to launch a case, sanctions, all the checks and safeguards by which you can start a criminal offense or investigation against a person in office. All those are still in place. It is after the investigation has reached a point that you are arrested and a court says the facts of the case are such that you deserve to be in custody. Then and then alone will this law kick in. I can understand if somebody says 30 days is too little, make it 45 days, make it 50 days or something like that. That's a matter of detail with the Joint Parliamentary Committee undoubtedly will look at. But to say that you will not, you will vacate public office and that is undermining democracy. I'm appalled that people think that democracy envisages a man who has been arrested and who the highest court says deserves to be in jail. Having him in office is a tenet of democracy. I think it's an abuse of democracy.
Okay, but look, the bill applies to the Prime Minister, Union Ministers and Chief Ministers. Does this not undermine the principle of federalism if a central investigative agency's actions against a state Chief Minister can immediately strip him of office, sir? And we see that a large number of disproportionate cases have been filed by the ED, for example, against state ministers, CMs. We're seeing that.
Again, I am a critic of the way ED has been arresting people. But that's a separate debate because to me, those in office enjoy no special status. They may think that they enjoy a special status. According to me, they don't enjoy any special status. If a person in office is arrested, there is no difference from a businessman being arrested. So has ED been a little too liberal in arresting people? Yes, I think so. As the Supreme Court judgment which said all sorts of things in Vijay Madan Lal. Is the judgment right? I don't think so. I think it has already been read down and 3 judges are reconsidering that judgment. But that is a very different debate from what we are having today. Don't conflate the PMLA law created by these very people today who are complaining about losing office. Don't conflate the PMLA law and some, according to me, aberrations in the PMLA law with a larger principle. Forget the ED. What about a person who's charged with rape, a person who's charged with murder, a person who's charged with a conspiracy to kidnap? And don't pretend these things don't happen in today's politics. And if these are the charges against somebody, and prima facie a court says he doesn't deserve bail, must he still continue in office?
No, I mean that's a fair point, commonsensical argument. But given the frequent allegations of ED, sir, acting disproportionately against opposition officials, politicians, could this provision, and this is something that has been constantly raised by, opposition leaders, legal luminaries, this could become a tool for vendetta politics, where mere custody or charges become sufficient to topple governments. That's what they're saying.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't say against opposition politicians. I said the ED law is flawed. There is an aberration in the law. The Supreme Court needs to look at it. The power of arrest conferred upon the ED, which jumps the gun, starts an investigation even before a predicate offense is established. And the way the ED conducts investigation, I've been a trenchant critic of the ED. But that is for everybody. Everybody. When have the politicians last have a call attention motion saying so and so persons have been wrongly arrested by the ED? Let's have a discussion in Parliament. What's happening to the liberty of individual citizens? Have they done it? Has anybody presented a private member's bill saying the law of bail needs to be corrected? This nonsense in the PMLA has to be corrected. Has anybody done that?
No.
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 But they file a petition in the Supreme Court saying there should be no prosecution of those in office. So those in office is a special category. That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, this is not democracy. If you have a problem with the ED, I have a problem with the PMLA law as it stands. Maybe I'm a liberal at heart and I think you can't have laws like this. I have a problem with the PMLA law, but I have a problem with that law for every Indian citizen. But you guys have made the law. You are the people who made these laws. So we are concerned with somebody who's in office for 30 days, with whom the ED may have had no connection, may be arrested by the police for an offense involving more than 5 years. You're found owning a gun illegally in a particular area, which is an offense punishable with more than 5 years. Are you entitled to bail? No. The court may say no. Prima facie, you are not entitled to bail. Should you be allowed to continue as a minister? And the ED has nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean, these are compelling arguments to make. But again, wouldn't such a law incentivize frivolous or motivated FIRs in high-stakes political battles, effectively letting police actions dictate the survival of government, sir? I mean, many people are questioning today the gung-ho nature of the ED, and they say that it has become another sort of caged parrot, sir.
FIR doesn't get you anywhere. FIR doesn't get you anywhere. It has to be, your bail has to be rejected finally by the court for this to kick in.
That's true.
It's not on arrest. It says if you are in custody for so many days, now somebody can say 30 is too little, it takes 60 days to get your bail sorted. That's a matter of detail. What's wrong in principle that if you are being denied bail?
Well, my final question to you, because again, certain people have pointed to this. Historically, even convicted MPs and MLAs, they say, under Lily Thomas versus Union of India 2013 case, the judgment, were only disqualified upon conviction, not arrest, sir. Does this bill go far beyond what the Supreme Court itself has laid down, has envisaged?
Correct. No, you're not disqualified. You're not disqualified. If you resign and say the day I get bail, I will come back into office, you can do that. Or even if the president removes you, the day you get bail, you're back in office, it's done. You cannot run government from a prison cell. That's the principle of this law. And I'm sorry that we even need a law to say our governments will not be run from prison cells.
Yes, I mean, it is, it's a sad circumstance, isn't it, Mr. Salve, that we should even be talking about a potential law such as this being brought in to enforce morality. As you said, that people who occupy high offices are role models and they should behave like them. Thank you, Mr. Salve, as always, for a brilliant conversation. Obviously, this will attract other people to comment on it, but thank you for taking the time out. Thanks for watching The Hard Facts from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
In another.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
जी मैं समझ रही हूँ, हमारे साथ बने रहिए अविनाश and Anvit. Going to request you to continue staying with me. Let's also take our viewers through why this is such a massive threat when you talk about infiltration, as Anvit highlighted, particularly in India's east, especially when you look at Bihar, which is going to be going through assembly elections. This is now becoming a burgeoning threat. The concerns, of course, are illegal migration. Why is it happening? Because of forged documentation. The local governments, even the panchayat levels, are in fact involved in forging of these documents. Bogus voters are also then leading to a massive demographic change. And how is that now going to impact our country? It is going to impact the policy making of our nation. Anvit brings you another ground report. In fact, the threat of infiltration, this along the 600-kilometer international border in Bihar, is real and a growing one. The free movement across borders is creating a nightmare for security agencies, with infiltrators obtaining forged Indian documents with ease. That's subsequently paving way for their participation in elections, which can then have detrimental effect on not just the polity, but also the policy of the nation. While there has been many claims and counterclaims around the Bihar draft roll, which saw omission of 65 lakh names by the Election Commission, a reality check from the ground now reveals that this Herculean effort is a need of the hour.
The rush that you see I'm surrounded with is at Jogbani border check post in Bihar at the Indo-Nepal border. But the volume of people you see around me, is it humanly possible to check each one of them and to identify what they could be carrying? For exactly that mammoth task, we have the SSB, the Sashastra Seema Bal, deployed here. The size of people moving in and out, the regular seizures, and the vulnerability of the open border clearly demands of technological upgradation and introduction of equipment that would make their task easier. As many people will pass from this border with commodities, they are all checked and their identities are checked. No one can pass through this border, even despite the heavy volume of people moving, without confirming their identity. We'll try and talk to one of the officers and find out what are the procedures and what are the challenges here at this area. सर, यहाँ पे आप लोग का चेकिंग वगैरह रहता है रेगुलर राउंड द क्लॉक. क्या चैलेंजेस रहते हैं और क्या आप लोगों का मैंडेट है यहाँ पे?
मैंडेट यही है कि नेशनल सिक्योरिटी के में कोई भी ऐसी चीज़ ना चली जाए जो नेशनल के लिए हैम्पर करे. और हमारी ये है कि आप चेक करके ही सारी चीज़ें जाएँ.
Monitoring this mass of humanity moving from one side to the other presents multiple challenges and implications. Apart from the regular seizure of contraband, narcotics and weapons, this movement results in many infiltrators never returning and settling down here itself. The change is startling, particularly in the so-called no man's land along the border.
सर इधर जनसंख्या में भी काफ़ी बदलाव आए हैं बॉर्डर पे, जैसे काफ़ी लोग आके रह रहे हैं बाहर से, तो जनसंख्या में भी काफ़ी बदलाव है।
ये तो है, जनसंख्या बढ़ा है। इसी वार्ड में जो था ना, मतलब वो देखते हैं करीब 5 साल के दरमियान में कम से कम 300-400 वोटर बढ़ गया है। हाँ, ये सब कोई देखने वाला नहीं है, और नेता सब जो क्या वोट लिया, बात खत्म हो गया।
पहले 5 साल पहले लगभग 1000 वोट कम था, अब 1000 वोट ज़्यादा बढ़ गया। फर्क क्यों नहीं पड़ेगा? फर्क पड़ रहा है अभी। और सब ये बाहरी सब वोटर सब है।
नेपाल का आदमी को इंडिया का नागरिकता बना लिया है, इंडिया का आदमी नेपाल का नागरिकता बना लिया, तो उसमें तो वोट ज़्यादा बढ़वे करेगा।
CNN News 18 made its way to Dumaria village, one of the locations flagged for heavy encroachment in no man's land. Sources reveal that residents in these settlements not only shelter infiltrators in exchange for money, but in some cases even marry off their daughters to foreign nationals, effectively granting them lifelong legitimacy and protection. The sights seen on the ground are clearly reflected in the surge witnessed in voter rolls. Data from the Election Commission and other portals actively maintaining voter data show a clear surge in the number of voters in Bihar's border districts, while districts like Araria witnessed a 41% spike from 2019. East Champaran alarmingly showed a 126% spike in voters since 2019. In comparison, districts like Nalanda and Munger in the interiors of the state witnessed a significant drop in voters compared to 2019. The data tells a story, a spike which is almost Himalayan in its rise. No wonder that the poll panel during its intensive revision exercise made some extensive cuts to the voter rolls in these regions. While Araria saw a reduction of over 1.5 lakh voters in the revised 2025 rolls, East Champaran saw the voter count plummet by over 3 lakh.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post, and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. If there's one thing about Washington, it loves a narrative. First, it was India, the partner. Now it is India, the problem. Every day, it's a new lecture, a new accusation.